After the first race of the Formula One season, Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff admitted that his team is out of the title race this year. But was this a concession or a crafty ploy to lure Red Bull into a false sense of security? The chess game of Formula One has begun, and the battle for supremacy is about to get even more intriguing. Mercedes' hopes of closing the gap with Red Bull and Ferrari were dashed at the Bahrain Grand Prix, as the team found themselves further adrift in the opening race of the 2023 season. Despite making progress towards the end of a troubled 2022 campaign, Mercedes came out as the fourth fastest team in Bahrain, with Lewis Hamilton unable to resist Fernando Alonso's charge to the podium, and teammate George Russell beaten to sixth by Lance Stroll. Mercedes had hoped to unleash the full potential of their design philosophy, having resolved porpoising issues with help from the raised floor rules for 2023. However, qualifying in Bahrain confirmed that the team had regressed instead. Team boss Toto Wolff admitted that the Brackley outfit would have to abandon the W14's design concept, stating that he didn't think this package is going to be competitive eventually. George Russell, as calm in the bad weather as you could expect, summed up the devastated feeling by saying of Red Bull, they could win every race this season. The trail of destruction in the Bahrain Grand Prix, the first page of a 23-race calendar stretching to the last Sunday in November, barely contradicted Russell's prediction. Not only did Verstappen win, but Sergio Perez also completed the Red Bull's pulverizing one too. This was the Dutchman's 10th win in 12 races and his 17th in 24, stretching back to that fateful evening in Abu Dhabi at the end of 2021. The night the lights went out for Mercedes. Fernando Alonso, rampant in a newly invigorated Aston Martin, was an isolated 38 seconds adrift. And that was with Verstappen cruising from pole in a display that the TV cameras barely covered, and with good reason. Carlos Sainz, the only surviving Ferrari, was 48 seconds back and forth. Lewis Hamilton, 5th, was 51 short. Lance Stroll, 6th, in the second Aston Martin, 54.5 away. Russell, 7th, 55.8 distant. Russell continued his narrative of hard reality by saying Red Bull have got this championship sewn up, and I don't think anybody will be fighting them this year. Their pace here was weaker than in testing, but they have got it easy at the moment, and they can do what they like. They might not take every pole because Ferrari are competitive over one lap, but when it comes to race pace, they are in a very strong position. Mercedes has struggled to maintain their performance since Red Bull started dominating the F1 scene. They have fallen from their previously dominant position and have been unable to keep up with the Red Bull's pace. This has left them as a shadow of their former selves. Team principal Toto Wolff hardly helped their predicament with one of the most pessimistic eve of race statements imaginable when he said on Saturday night that they had misconceived the car and would bin it. They will move to a new design. Many along the paddock could not believe their ears. What would his comments do for morale? It was clearly also an embarrassing U-turn, having obstinately stuck with their floor and zero side pod design despite it obviously acting like a caravan for an entire year. Following the Bahrain Grand Prix, it was evident that Aston Martin is currently the closest challenger to Red Bull in the F1 scene, with Ferrari closely behind. Mercedes, on the other hand, has fallen to 4th place, which is one place lower than where they were 12 months ago. Wolff admitted it was one of the worst days in racing. It is really not good at all, and we are lacking pace left, right and centre. Red Bull are just on a different planet. That is what hurts because they are so far ahead. It reminds me of our best years, where we just put a second on everyone else. That is the benchmark, and we need to come back, and we absolutely can do that. Mercedes have lost key personnel, and not even the Roman Empire lasted forever. It also sets in motion a million other imponderables, not least whether Hamilton will want to stick around as the clock ticks on his dazzling career. He can hardly have liked the evidence of his eyes. Russell added, "We cannot beat around the bush. I want to win championships, not come second, and that is what every single person in Mercedes wants to do. Second is not good enough, and if we need to make drastic changes to give ourselves a shot in the second half of the year, or whenever, that is what we will do." Making a significant change to their performance is challenging for F1 teams in the current era of the cost cap. The teams are now restricted to a budget of around $110 million and cannot rely on unlimited spending to find solutions to their problems. So Mercedes might not fully be able to change their car concept, they might just be able to change part of it. It's not only Russell and Toto Wolff that have spoken about how poor Mercedes have performed since testing began. The 7-time world champion has also spoken out. Lewis Hamilton ramps up Mercedes' blame game. Hamilton criticised Mercedes for not listening after he warned them about inherent issues with its car. Despite the majority of teams now running a mix of the concepts initially fielded by Red Bull and Ferrari, Mercedes persisted with its zero-side pod philosophy into the new campaign. However, speaking after a disappointing qualifying performance and again after Hamilton finished 50 seconds off race winner Max Verstappen, Wolff stated a need for Mercedes to undergo a radical rethink. suggesting this conclusion could have been reached sooner if Mercedes had listened to him. Hamilton said, "Last year, I told them the issues that are with the car. I've driven so many cars in my life, so I know what a car needs. I know what a car doesn't need." And I think it's really about accountability. It's about owning up and saying, yeah, you know what, we didn't listen to you. It's not where it needs to be, and we've got to work. We've got to look into the balance through the corners, look at all the weak points, and just huddle up as a team. That's what we do. We're still multi-world champions. It's just that they haven't got it right this time. They didn't get it right last year, but that doesn't mean we can't get it right moving forwards. While Mercedes might be playing mind games or blame games, whatsoever you think they might be doing, Christian Horner was keen to manage expectations of his Red Bull team despite eye-catching predictions made by their Mercedes rivals. Horner will no doubt be thrilled by how his team performed in Bahrain. While he would very much like it if these lofty predictions about Red Bull came true, he was keen to not add to the hype as he spoke after the race. He said, 23 races is a marathon. It's about being consistent over the campaign. Today was a great start, but we fully expect our rivals to come back hard in future races. None of us are getting carried away with one result. The surface of this track is quite unique. It was a well-executed Grand Prix, and after last year, when we came away with 0 points, to have 43 this year feels like a good response. But we've only got one data set, so we're not taking anything for granted. Let's see Jeddah and then Melbourne. Once we've seen 2 or 3 races, we'll have a better idea. Wolff still hopes that they can take drastic steps forward and improve their car, especially after witnessing Aston Martin's performance. One of the biggest surprises this year was the Green British team. They were able to make massive improvements from 2022 and place themselves amongst other top teams. Since Aston Martin runs Mercedes power units, Toto Wolff is confident that they themselves can be as fast, if not faster. Speaking to the media, he confidently stated that his team could come back simply because Aston Martin proved that their power unit has the potential to fight for podiums. He said, "We can come back, absolutely we can. I think it needs to be much more radical in the steps than hope for a 3/10 upgrade." He added, "Aston Martin deserve what they have done, they did a good job. The good news for us is there is a lot of Mercedes in there. To pinpoint it, that would be helpful in the recovery." Toto Wolff hinted that Aston Martin could indirectly help the W14's development since there are a lot of important parts that are common between the two teams. However, the overall shape of the AMR23 and the W14 are massively different from one another, resulting in aerodynamic differences. Hence, we might see some different body parts in Mercedes' future upgrade packages. Also, Mercedes trackside engineering director Andrew Chauvelin has revealed fans will be able to see visible changes to the W14 in coming races. Asked if the concept would definitely change going forward, Chauvelin explained people have tended to use the word concept when they mean the side pod design, and Toto had said recently that we are looking at a revision to that is going to come along in the next few races anyway. Now, given the gap to the front, of course, we are going to look at bigger departures, more radical changes. But those changes take time to turn into a faster solution in the wind tunnel, so you can't do them overnight. There is quite a lot of development that you've got to do around any sort of big change in geometry in that area. So of course, we are looking at where we can improve the car. We are looking for potential to develop, and you will see visible changes on the car in the next few races. Now, over to you. What's your thought about statements made by Wolff and Russell? Do you think they are playing mind games? Will they be back in the title race soon? Let us know in the comment section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so that you can always get to watch more amazing videos like this. See you in the next video.